Yeah.
Can't hear you.
Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of Elevator Dialogue here on the Uncle Junior Network. Who is that? That background noise. Either way, hey, I am the Uncle Junior, and I am just one member of this fabulous wolf pack that you see with us, that you see here today. We're gonna go around the table, starting with Roland from down the street, the other artist, Mr. Antoine, slick hair, Christopher, the mindset coach himself, Mr. Dwayne Coach Dwyer, Mr. Accountability himself, Victor Vision, and ladies and gentlemen, back with us again from, I don't know, I just drew a blank. You know what I'm saying? But it is what it is, Orville, man. I
New
love
York.
you, brother. From New York, from all the way from Jamaica, all of those other different things like that, man. I appreciate you being with us here again today.
Good to be here again.
How you been, Orville, man?
I've been great. Can't complain.
Good. How about everybody else? Everybody's good?
Good, man. Good.
Good, man. Hey, man, we back again this week. This is the third part. This is the third part of a 4-part series. So if you haven't checked out part 1 or part 2, feel free to go back to YouTube and check those things out. Also, we are going to be working on a couple other things that's going to be coming out possibly in February, a couple different shows. So stay tuned for those. Friday night, Empowering Perspective podcast. So be on the lookout for those in your timeline or something like that. Check out Vic. Word on the street is he is writing his 3rd installment book. So, ladies and gentlemen, he threw me out there last week with my book for 24. So I'm gonna hold him accountable just like he's holding me. So we're gonna be expecting that book sometime soon, brother.
Absolutely. Hey, man, I'm motivated about it because you know how like when you finally got the idea and it just, you know, it drives you instead of you just trying to drive it. You just along for the ride. So I know it's gonna be a good product when it's done.
Yeah, man. I'm already looking forward to the code part 15. You know, when I'm 67 years old. You know what I mean? Constant installments. Every year you need to do an update.
You know, that's kind of the goal, man. It's like before the first book, you know, it was everything pre-COVID, pre-2018, a lot of political emotions, a lot of you know, like it was a lot of police injustice, just a whole lot of stuff. And then that was even prior to COVID hitting. So now we got a life post-COVID. We communicate different. We are a little bit more compartmentalized. I don't have any of the. I wouldn't say I have any of the friends I used to have. You know what I'm saying? 5 years ago, but in the last 5 years, it's been a vacuum of people that are no longer in my life for whatever reason. And it's just a sign of the times, man, where like-minded people are starting to have better conversations and try to solve problems so they can improve their individual quality of life. And it's just a lot of different variables that are constantly cycling, and I think the biggest gap in our community came from us not passing down a solid, what I'm saying, capture of a previous, era. We're losing that because you can see the difference between the way people use electronics and lean on electronics and still don't have critical thinking skills. And I think the people that experienced life before the internet have a lot more to offer this generation, what I'm saying, as we get a little bit older, to match up the technology and be able to take it a little bit further for some people.
Yeah, I like that. Shout out to the chat. Shout out to Scott. Hey man, what's going on? I appreciate you being here. You said you was going to be here, man. So I appreciate you. So shout out to you already. That's a new friend of mine. And with that being said, we're about to get into this third week of the 4-part series. The week 1 was what is a modern relationship and how does it differ from relationships of the past? Week 2 was how can individuals effectively communicate with their partner in a relationship? This is week 3. How can individuals navigate the various dynamics that may arise in a relationship? And what we're going to do today, we're going to talk about a couple of different dynamics that some of you may experience during a relationship. And that's how we're going to roll with it. So welcome again to week 3 of this 4-part series, Navigating Relationships. In this week's episode, we will be exploring various dynamics and how it fits into a relationship. For this conversation, we are focused on an intimate relationship between two people. Navigating the dynamics of a relationship between a man and a woman can be challenging. Still, with effective communication and understanding, it is possible to build a strong and lasting bond. So, with that being said, one of the first things that we're going to start talking about is the different power dynamics that may impact a relationship. So, with power dynamics, I'm going to start with whoever that wants to start with this first question, and you can spin it, twist it, however you want. Just make sure that the dialogue is elevated. Oh, Antoine starting? What you got, Antoine?
How do I always get the power dynamics impact the relationship? I think I don't look at it as power, right? Because I look at it as each person plays a role in their relationship. There's strong suits that some people have, and there's not so strong suits that some women have. So it's about, I don't look at it as a power thing because that kind of like puts it against one another, who leads like that. So I wouldn't say a power thing. I look at the power as the roles a woman's supposed to play and a man's supposed to play. That's how I look at it.
It's quite interesting. I never thought about it that way in terms of like it's not about power, but you have always heard the term thrown around power dynamics. But to your point, I think it's every individual does come to the relationship with a different vibe, a different level of strength or need, and if we can feed off each of those strengths or needs, and certainly we can understand where someone is. One of the things I was thinking about when I read the byline was really around how do we enter a relationship in terms of like being self-aware, because if we are quite self-aware and we understand ourselves, regardless of any shifting in a relationship, then both of us should be able to adjust and navigate that shift. And I think to Antoine's point, it's not so much of power, it's about shifting and adjusting and being able to understand that your partner might have a different level of opportunity in the relationship, whether it be money or work or whatever it is, does how do you, adjust yourself to make sure that you fit into that without feeling powerless?
I'll take a I'll take a stab. Um, I think it's about being creative, versatile, and flexible. And I think if you stay with those, like that mindset, the energy from those words, you don't really worry about power. Your power is a mix of those three things. When you when you know that you can step up or step back in order to support your mate in either way. You know what I mean? So I think if you look at power in a very short-sighted way, it the context of it goes into, like maybe struggle, something where somebody's trying to be greater than the other person, when really is, if the relationship has power, if you give it power, you know, and you allow the flexibility, the versatility, and just the willingness to compromise and adjust. I think I think power dynamics is in this context, we're talking about trying to find balance between what makes sense, what we want to do, what we think we should be doing, and what we have to do. And I think all of those require a degree of flexibility and understanding. Um, and I think it comes down to being receptive, coachable. All those things go into account because everybody doesn't listen the same way. We've been talking about that, right? Like everybody doesn't hear the message the way they need to hear it sometimes. Sometimes body language keeps us off of, making somebody else more comfortable or us even being comfortable. So power dynamics, I think when you mix in communication and the other variables about the things that you can't change that happen outside your relationship and how you adjust to them, and your ability to adapt and your ability to be coached, because everybody has to be coachable, in order for the true power dynamics of your relationship can come to fruition.
I think when it comes to these, I might play devil's advocate here because I think sometimes the power dynamic will play on the psyche, especially of the male, because he wants to be in charge and he may not be willing to submit himself under her level of power and influence over said subject. So it's an ego trip for him sometimes where it's like, okay, he want to beat his chest and use that bravado and say, I'm the man, instead of acting like the man, realizing his flaws and talking like Orville said, when you recognize it, and actually learning that this power dynamic doesn't hinder me from being who I am. It shows I have a need to learn more. She has that necessity that I need. So now I sit back, listen, and I can grow with her as she teaches.
But before Coach Dwyer goes, I would just say that both persons would have to be somewhat self-aware so that that push and pull doesn't happen in a negative way. That even though you might be out, say, out of a job, and she's able to take the load off and run the house financially, then it's not put in your face to damage your ego, but to recognize that I still recognize who you are, and you still have that self awareness to say that doesn't affect me. I'll be okay because you have a partner who's quite self aware too and is not willing to damage your ego.
I think for the most part, to the question, how do or can power dynamics impact relationships? I think it can either be positive or negative. That's, just for basic simplicity. It can be positive or negative. How can it be negative? Well, it can be negative because one party wants to establish power or maintain power or want to be all consuming power. And, how can it be positive? I think it can be positive when both parties realize that neither one of them are the source of power. They're just they're just vessels of power, And at the end of the day, as a vessel of power, you should not seek to have supreme power over the other. Power within a healthy relationship, I think Roland mentioned that. Power within a healthy relationship, it ebbs and flows. That's that, push pull, right? Just like everything in life, it ebbs and flows. Knowing when you're in a position to where what you bring to the table puts you at the place to where you can make the best decision for the relationship, or when the other person can make the best decision for the relationship, because ultimately the relationship itself is power, not either person that is in the relationship. And once we understand that, then we won't make it so self-centered. So, how can it impact? Again, positive or negative. If we try to make it all about us, try to be self-centered or egotistical per se, like Vic mentioned, ego management. Um, I would even go a step further. Instead of managing ego, we should learn to restrain it as best we possibly can. The more we restrain our ego, the more the relationship can thrive. So power, I mean, it's just like any other thing. Now, the issue for me, I would say, is that when we start assuming that certain things are powerful, we've seen it through our history, whether, we see money as being power, or whether we see sex as a means of power, or our job title as a means of title, which in turn equates to money, or a person looks as a means of power. And so when we start to use those things, that's the very definition of manipulation. So that's a perfect example how power can actually turn out to be a negative state.
I would say, another, following up what Coach said, the same thing is like, I don't understand why there would be an ego in a relationship, right? Or this whole ego thing, and you can't really be you have to always try to be the man I don't believe in any of that. If you're in a relationship, why would you have an ego towards your significant other? If she's your wife or she's handling your business, she knows you inside. Why would you have an ego with her? Like, she knows her roles, you know your roles. I mean, like, is there really necessary to have an ego up? Like, so I don't really.
I think everyone has ego all the time, meaning like you got your boundaries. You know what I'm saying? Like there's only so much somebody can say to you before you have a certain type of response. You know what I mean? So like your ego being held, it keeps you from overstepping your boundaries with other people. Like even when you're right about something, it allows you to walk away. That's what ego is. But but oftentimes when I say ego management, it's like if you're having a conflict in a relationship and the communication isn't that good, and if you shut down, that's your ego at that point. You know what I mean? Like ego is about protecting whatever you sensitive and defensive about. And some people they can't have certain conversations because they can't be objective enough to talk about it, and they end up getting triggered. You know what I'm saying? Those people have ego problems. That people that exhibit a behavior like that does. And on the other side of it, people that want to poke the bear on something. All of us got something that we poke the bear on, right? And that's you using your ego because you already know, what I'm saying, how to navigate it once you get into it. You know how to find a fight when you want to. You know how to avoid a conflict if you want to also. So all of that is ego management.
That's
just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it.
I mean, I just, I look at things differently. I just believe that if the person's right, they're right. Like if you know when you're wrong, and when you're just being wrong and strong, right? So, I mean, do you really want to carry on something that you're wrong about? Like you're disturbing your own peace, for crying out loud. If she's right, she's right.
Right.
If she's right, she's right. I mean, if you're lost, you're lost. If you're driving a car and you're trying to, put your ego in saying, I'm not really lost. What? You're lost. What's the big? I don't understand that. It's that same thing that, I guess I'm tying into, like when you say you can't cry in front of a woman and all that shit. Like, it's your woman. Like, you're not crying in just front of anybody. So
I think sometimes we think we know a subject, like communication. We think we can communicate simply because we can talk a lot, when there's other parts to communication. So you may be rah, 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 because you can you can voice what you're saying and you can articulate it well, but that doesn't mean it was communicated well because the other party really didn't understand here or whatever. So I think when you are comfortable in a certain thing and you have knowledge of it, there has to be ego in it because you're like, well, I know what I'm doing. So that automatically starts with ego because I'm self-aware in this. So when somebody tries to combat what I'm saying, it's a defense mechanism that's already embedded in us that stands up like, hold up, I know what the heck I'm doing. Instead of sitting back saying, let me listen to what they're saying, because they may be something that will be beneficial to me.
And so that's why I brought up
I couldn't agree more. Oh, sorry, Coach.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead, Coach.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Roland. I think it's, because we all have egos anyway. That's what, carries us in terms of, our own self confidence. So if this is what we believe, this is how we feel about a certain thing, and this makes me feel confident about myself, my self-esteem is at play here, and someone tried to damage that by saying something or doing something or pulling the rug from under my feet or deny me my presence or something that I need to have, then I'm going to feel some sort of way, and it's going to be an issue. So, we all have that ego in us, and once someone attacked it, then certainly you're going to respond. And the response might be negative, or it could be positive, where you can clearly identify that you're feeling a certain way about what is said or done to you and how it's been presented and how you feel, so that that person can take corrective measures. But we all have it. We all have it, and we push back many times because people try to come at us and damage our self-esteem.
Agreed, 100%. And the ego only has one job in life, and that's to fight for me. That's it. That's all the ego cares to do, is to fight and defend me. So the sooner we understand that, and the sooner we learn how to control our ego, then we make room for somebody else within our environment.
Yeah, Antoine, I understand what you're saying. However, at the same time, I think when you say, well, how does the ego get involved in a relationship? And I think it's kind of sort of exactly what you said, is that like, hey, if I know that I'm right about something, then it's hard for someone to try to tell me that it's not, However, like Roland was saying, I may not have articulated clearly to my spouse exactly what I'm trying to say. So I'm just like, well, what the heck? Like you should understand. Like I'm telling you, like this is simple, it's clear, but the way she received it, I spoke to her in a way to where she couldn't receive it the way she needed to for her understanding. So because I didn't give it to her the way that she could understand it, there could be an issue because you understand what I'm saying? It's like, it's not that it's anything that's bad. It's just a lack of communication that can come in there sometime, and that can cause ego issues sometime. And it's only because, like I said, you may not have communicated it effectively to the other person.
But let's just say, I'm just saying, like, if you know you're right, you did your homework, you showed her the facts, you laid it out, you showed her a book on it, let her read about it. After that, I'm not getting into a conversation. I'm going to leave you with your ego and let you figure it out on your own, right? Because I'm not
correct.
I'm not going to stay there and entertain your idiocy. I'm just going to go, well, you know what? Knock yourself out. I got to go, right?
Because and that's correct.
I'm not going to have it with you.
And that can work for things that you can collect data on.
Yeah.
What about conversations and things where y'all don't necessarily agree, where you like, no, this is right, and she like, well, no, this is right, and at the end of the day, y'all both are right. You see what I'm saying? Like
that's when you find the middle ground, and somebody has to give up the middle ground. There's always a middle ground.
Okay, so back to the PowerPoint, but back to the power dynamics and how we can impact relationships. Right. So let's just say, for argument's sake, in utopia, you say that the sky's blue, no matter what, and she like, nah, the sky is green. Well, how do y'all come to a compromise when you like, man, I've been looking at the sky every day for 44 years and it is freaking blue, and your wife say, well, I've been looking at it for 25 years and the sky is red.
Then
So
you
how
just
do you come to a compromise when y'all both have data? You see what I'm saying? So where's the compromise?
I would say the compromise is discussing. So how do you want to end this? Somebody's got to ask that question, right?
But how does it end?
And if this guy, I mean, I was
Does
going
it
to
end in the power dynamic? Does it end with you just saying because
Yeah,
I'm the
I'm the
man
man, I'm
and
gonna
I'm the head
lead.
of the household
Yes,
that I
yes,
have the final
yes.
say so?
I'm the man. I'm going to lead. I'm going to take that role and say, well, listen, it's this way or no way. This is how it's going to go down. If I make a mistake, well, I was wrong. Somebody has to put their foot down. So it's going to be me.
So is that considered power?
No, it's just considered me taking the lead, and somebody has to make a decision, and I made it.
Okay.
I was thinking about an example of what I would consider to be especially power dynamics or ego being bruised. And I was thinking, there are men who are, you could be considered Mr. Fix-It. They'll fix everything around the house. They take care of the household. You can't tell them nothing, cut the grass, whatever. But if I'm in a situation where this is my job, this is what I take pride in, and my partner somehow feels, well, you're taking too long to do this, I'm going to get, Roland over there to come fix this for you because you're taking too long. My ego is bruised, and you just took away an opportunity or maybe the power that I have in my house where I feel like I have this opportunity to really take hold of my household by having someone else take my position or take my job. That is a part of bruising your ego, and someone's self-esteem can be really damaged by that, by your partner not understanding what it means to say, be patient, and acknowledge that this is his thing, this is his pride and joy, and not to take it away from him. But by being patient and maybe having a conversation to say, this is important to me, and I would like to get it done.
But
so that you can come to some level of compromise.
But if that is impacting the well-being of the other person because they can't function because you're taking your sweet time to do it, I don't blame that person to go get somebody done because you're taking your sweet time. You think it's on your time.
Well, I don't think someone is taking their sweet time intentionally.
You're impacting me on the household.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying you're going to get it done, but it's impacting me now. It wasn't impacting me before, but now since you're sleeping on it, it's starting to impact me, right? So it's best you kind of like move your ass a little bit and speed it up. Because if you don't, I have to take the control and get somebody to fix it.
And that's your ego.
And that's when the power dynamics get damaged because someone takes the control instead of being patient and having a conversation.
But you damage your own ego because you just were slow on your ass. You didn't move it.
Right.
The stove is broken. I'm not eating cold food because you decided to sleep. I know.
Well, maybe they didn't decide. Maybe they're tired. Maybe they did a 12-hour.
Okay, so if you're good, get a good night's sleep. I'm gonna get somebody else to do it. Get a good night's sleep because I need you fresh. So get a good night's sleep, and I'm gonna get somebody else.
No.
Hey,
you can't do that.
I don't understand.
He leaned into the camera.
I don't get that. That's a bad.
My grandmother raised me. She made sure I knew how to cook, clean, and do everything. She said I wouldn't need a woman for nothing but to procreate. So I took that mentality into relationships coming up. So in my mind, I'm like, I'm telling these people, I don't need you. So that will bruise the ego, just like when a woman says she don't need a man, it actually bruises his ego when she say, I can do it for myself. And especially things that you consider your job or your strong suits. When you do it, you're saying, I got it. But then if you ain't moving quick enough for her, you're saying, dang, I was doing it and you didn't need it right now. What that power struggle in that moment is bruising your ego because you know you can do it and we're going to do it. But now you got to sit back and say, okay, let me do it now, simply because she's tripping. Not because I want to do it right now, but because she's tripping.
I just think how, listen, she has a right to give you a time limit, man. Jesus. I know I don't want to hurt your ego, but can you speed it up a bit? Like, what do you need to do? You need to come home early from work? Do you need me to make an earlier meal? Like, dude, come on. If my wife is taking forever to cook a dinner, you know what? Step aside. I'm going to order something so you don't have to. I want you to catch up. I'm not going to. I mean, this is ridiculous. How long are you going to give a person?
Hey, what's the opposite of
Are you damaging your ego because you're speeding things up? Like, well, that's a sensitive kind of like, that's like irrelevant. That's so sensitive. I'm bruising your ego because I got somebody else to do a job that you were too lazy to do. It took forever to do. Like, that's like, what are you talking about? If I know I can't do it, I'm saying, you know what? I thought I can do it. You're right. Let's just hire somebody to do it because you know what? I just don't have the time.
But once you insert those words like lazy or whatever,
That's what I was about
you're
to-
doing is demeaning the person's ability, and ego has to take
Wait a minute,
because it's
but
personal now.
Is the person lazy?
What if
Say
she made a suggestion?
Is the person lazy though? I said lazy, meaning if the person is lazy, what's the big deal in calling him out on his laziness? Like, you guys, serious.
Can I give a creative scenario for you, Antoine, so you could probably relate to it?
Yeah, give me something solid, man, because this
Okay,
whole sensitive
what if you're not painting fast enough and she finds somebody else to finish your painting because you're being lazy?
Wait a minute, are we talking about my personal work? Are we talking about my personal work? Because she ain't gonna ever be involved in that.
It's hypothetical.
Okay, let's just say, first of all, there's a deadline for everything, right? I respect the deadline. If you pay me for that, and if I really didn't
take all of that out. No, we don't need to worry about the other stuff. Just the fact that she would get somebody else to finish it up.
I don't blame her. I don't blame her at all. You know what? I messed up. I don't blame her. I messed up. I messed up. Sorry. And you know what? I bruised your ego. Sorry. You're right. But you know what? You didn't really bruise my ego. I did it to myself because I led you into this situation. Period. And I think people, life isn't complicated. It's just people who tend to make it so. I always say that. It's like there's no ego. There's no, you're lazy. My father was lazy. My mother said, you're damn lazy. You're taking forever to cut the grass. Now the dinner's cold. You're lazy. Move your ass. Get up there. Let's go. Vámonos, muchacho. I don't see what's wrong with that. A woman has a right to voice her opinion if you're taking too damn long. And she has a right to call a plumber. I mean, things got to get done, man. You're paying the bills, aren't you? Just write the check. Next time, speed it up. Get home.
I know we don't want to labor this, but I just want to just piggyback on Vic and try to help Antoine understand. But if you're at work and you need to leave to get home because there is a busted pipe in your house, and instead of trying to hold it down, you're heading home because you want to take care of this because you know how to fix a busted pipe, and your woman said, "I don't care what happened. I'm just gonna get Vic from across the street, my neighbor, to come do it." The house is not flooding. Nothing is happening where there's an immediate such an emergency where your house is going to flood. But there's a busted pipe somewhere and there's a leak. She put a pan there, whatever. And she could just wait. You said you're on, make sure you get there on time. You're not lazy. You're not trying to avoid doing whatever. You're just making sure that you want to attend to your household. But then she says, I'm going to get Vic to do it. And Vic comes over, you see Vic in your house fixing your pipe. You're telling me that you're not going to feel any way about that?
I'm going to look at her. First of all, I'm going to have that conversation with her. I'm going to look at her and go, so what didn't you understand in the sentence when I said I was coming home? We already established it wasn't, we already established it wasn't an emergency, right? We already established that. I just need to know in your mind how you were thinking. And I said to I'm coming home, you really need to explain to me what made you call Vic. And something smart and something really good better come out of your mouth at this time, right? Because I'm speaking plain English to you. So just in plain English, tell me, how did you get to the stupidity level?
But that's condescending, Antoine.
No, I'm asking her honestly. I really want to know what made you call
Vic has nothing to do with this, and
I really want to know what made you call Vic. Just explain that to me. That's all I want to know from her. I don't want nothing else.
I'm sorry to call you Vic. I'm sorry.
Vic, don't be plumbing no way you ain't supposed to.
I just need to know. I just want her to explain to me why you felt the need to call Vic when literally I said I was leaving work. Literally, we established it wasn't anything in an emergency. So now that we brought it down to basic English, I'm going to sit back and let you open your mouth and tell me.
See, but you see, when you say I'm breaking it down to the basic level, I'm basic English and all these other. Wait a minute.
Absolutely.
All these other condescending terms.
Why is that condescending? That's a fact.
Vic, I mean, Antoine, if somebody tells you what they're saying is you're not smart enough to.
Yeah, you're not.
So I'm going to dumb it down.
Yes.
You got to listen. I'm going to dumb it down for you so you can understand.
I'm going to make it idiot proof. Yes.
So they're an idiot.
So yes, you're an idiot because I literally explained to you when I was coming home. We literally had a conversation. Like we literally just spoke. Like we literally just got off the phone. I mean, I need to know what made you go into that stupidity. Just break that down to me so I don't make that mistake again. So maybe next time I'm on the phone with you, I can say it so you comprehend it in full-blown educational English.
I'm not perfect in any relationship, but I think that being insulting will never result in anything positive.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Antoine Christopher, 555 555 5555.
I just want to know
Pacific Standard Time.
I just
all of that was ego.
For you, all of that what you guys are talking was just plain stupidity. Because I'm like, I'm still lost on fucking stupidity.
Well, I'm going to play the middle ground. I'm gonna play the middle ground on this one.
Middle ground.
Yeah, I'm playing the middle ground on this one because I just told y'all last week. I pretty much asked a question about a basketball goal, and once I got the response about that basketball goal, I got to a certain point, and I just said, "Hey, you know what? This is what it's going to be." By the time I come home tomorrow, that basketball goal need to be gone. That's it. I honestly do believe that patience is extended to a certain extent. Once that patience has been extended and we can't come to an understanding, a decision has to be made. We can sit here and go back and forth because we're equal all day long. But at the end of the day, a decision has to be made. Orva gave a great example about that leaky pipe, that pipe leaking. But a decision has to be made. Now,
Call Vic.
Vic ain't we ain't gonna call Vic because the first example was Roland, right? Call Roland. Roland gonna come over and fix the pipe. I love Roland to death. But the first thing Roland better do is get on the phone and call me. Say, hey man, you know your lady called me to come to the house to fix pipe. And I'm like, ain't nobody fixing no pipes in my house but me. You know what I'm saying? I say this jokingly, but every man, I promise you, agree with everything I just said. Because there's no man that's going to come to my house while I'm not there without me knowing. And the best part about that statement is that it works in reverse. Bring a woman to the house while she's gone and let her find out and watch what happens. So I agree wholeheartedly with the things that are actually being said, but I actually agree with a lot of what Antoine is saying as well, because everybody brings ego to the table. But at some point, decisions need to be made. We can joust back and forth all day long, jostling with who got the better idea, but let's just be completely transparent. Facts look different from person to person because everybody have different experiences, everybody have different upbringings, everybody have different educational levels. So at the end of the day, I don't have time to cut through all of that, especially when there's a decision to be made. So once we get to that stalemate where we're going back and forth and we can't come to a happy medium, you know what? I'm going to make the decision. And you know what? We can talk about it once I make the decision. But the decision is made. This is where we're going to go. And I don't mean that and from a misogynistic standpoint. It's just that we got to move forward. And moving forward is ultimately the key.
Rebuttal, Antoine?
I agree with Coach. I just don't know how long you guys put up with that shit. Like, how long do you how many times do you have to go through this with a woman? Like, baby, I mean, whoo, like you're killing me over here. Like I'm trying to stay with you, but you ain't making it.
I think everything has an expiration date when it starts hurting the other person. It's an expiration date for somebody, you know. What the last day they choose to deal with it, and then how they deal with it is something else, you know, because you can make an internal decision to, you know, shut down or be passive aggressive or something like that. You can find out some type of way to communicate that you're fed up with something. But either way, you got to pick a healthier decision that takes care of yourself, you know, because at a minimum, you have to first be willing to address what's bothering you, and be prepared for the other person to feel like you're attacking them when you're trying to, say what's wrong with you. And then you have to already be prepared to the other person to make it about themselves. And then for it to take a longer time for it to get understood. These are just cycles, because people come into a conversation prepared to defend themselves and their points. A lot of people don't know how to bring stuff up without ambushing the other person. You know what I'm saying? So like that's why like when somebody says we need to talk, and you like you know exactly. See how you just started shaking your head and already looking around?
We ain't got nothing to
Because
talk about. We can talk
we,
right now.
we can
When you
talk
tell
right now.
when
Yeah,
you
you know
tell
what
a
I'm
man
saying?
that's anxiety, bro.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yep. I'm
Yep. That's
taking a couple
anxiety,
laps
man.
around
Like
the corner.
every man knows that
Mhm.
we need to talk.
When you say we need to talk, ain't a good thing.
Hey,
I
when
mean,
I
I
say we
know
need to
that's
talk, it
not a
ain't a
good
good thing either.
That's projected. You know what I'm saying?
The
Like,
coach said it worked both ways.
yep.
I said we
Exactly.
need to
Hey, that's
talk.
why if you know of a fight coming, you might as well start it.
Hey,
Those are key words right there. We need to talk.
hey, I appreciate everything that's been said so far, man. We're going to segue a little bit into the next talking point. You know, in a relationship, you know, we never in a relationship with anybody, couples, you know, friends, whatever, but we stick into an intimate relationship here. You know, we don't always agree on everything, and we may want different things. So how do we manage differing relationship expectations? And I guess I'll start with something as simple as I know that first of all, like I'm gonna steal this from Coach, and I've already repeated it once today to somebody at work, and yesterday it's about the relationship is the most important person in the relationship. It's not the man, it's not the woman, but it's the relationship. So I say that at the same time, I want to say that, you know, there may be situations to whereas there's differing expectations. I remember when I was married the first time, I would get paid. You know what I mean? We have extra, you know, I get paid on the 1st and 15th, right? So I have an extra $100 and 27 cents left after I done paid everything. So my ex-wife was like, hey, you know, we can go out to eat and we can do this. I'm just like, whoa. I'm like, look, we got to make it. We got 13 more days for this $100 to last. So whereas I was maybe wanting to like, hey, let's don't spend it all. We need to save a little bit. She saw it as extra money. You know what I mean? And yes, I was young then, totally different dynamics, totally different way I think right now. But as I was thinking about that, that was just one of the things where we having different expectations and goals. You know what I mean? Even now, like my goal is to have a certain amount of money saved up, certain amount invested, blah, blah, blah. So I'm not like everybody's friend on Facebook. I'm not taking trips every day, every month. We not doing a whole bunch of trips in 23. You know, we got financial goals and stuff like that that we're trying to get to. So, you know, it's like when you have different things like that that may come up in a relationship, you have to make sure that you communicate things and make sure that they're communicated effectively. Um, and that's all I got to say about that. Make sure they communicate effectively.
I think you know, managing different relationship expectations and goals is kind of an extension of the previous topic, you know, because this plays into power dynamics too, because you could have a one person that's a breadwinner, and it may not necessarily be, you know, the husband or the wife, but you can have somebody else that has different sets of resources that like the house might be in one person's name and not in the other, but you both contribute to the health of the relationship in whatever way that you do, you know, because again, the health of the relationship is what the individual in the relationship connects to for the value of it. So I think you just got to adjust your expectations and adapt, be coachable, and recognize what's the larger picture. You know, is it my immediate emotions? Does what I do right now impact us 2 to 5 years from now? You know, and I think that if you mean to be with that person, you won't let the short term, you know, weigh on you any longer than you need to. So like when you start talking about expiration dates on arguments, either accepting the that comes down to you either accepting the person, you know what I'm saying, where they are, and not putting yourself inside that boundary to get disappointed, you know, in spaces where you know that person isn't that good. And I think that power dynamic that plays into different relationship expectations, I think that's just definitely on the individual, being situationally aware of who they are and knowing that everybody don't like them all the time, you know? So when you start, I guess, itemizing whatever your complaints are, or if it's not meeting expectations or exceeding it, you got to be comfortable with giving praise instead of looking for it all the time, and also comfortable with accepting criticism if you're going to give it.
I think when it comes down to this particular question, how can we manage differing relationship expectations and goal? I think it's done in the very beginning. Previously I made mention that we need to have a conversation, come to an understanding and agreement of what relationship looks like moving forward. From my experience, too many people have their own individual idea of what relationship looks like. This person's, her idea of relationship may be, riding in on a chariot, and moving into a house on a white picket fence. My idea of relationship mean me working from 9 to 9, coming home to a hot cooked meal, and the kids are ready in their bed, and it's happy hour. You know what I'm saying? So I think in the beginning, the way that you come to it, you come to an understanding through the art of conversation and understanding. What are you looking for? What are we looking for? What is going to be the guiding principle that guides this relationship forward? Because again, I go back to the idea of being equally yoked, right? You have to get to the point to where you understand that you guys have the same belief system, not just the same belief system, but within the scope of the same belief system, do we believe the same things? Because that's the thing as well. Don't just tie yourself to somebody because they say, oh, I believe in God. Sure, you believe in God as well, so we should be together. No, that's not true, right? You need to understand where are the limiting belief systems when it comes down to that conversation. Now, once we've already established this in the beginning, once dispute, disagreements, whatever you want to call them, whenever they arise, we go back to the guiding principle of the relationship. We go back to the vision that we had for the family. We go back to the guiding principles, and then we identify within those principles which one governs this misunderstanding that we are experiencing at this particular point in time. Once we do that, then that decides what's right and what's wrong, not who's right and who's wrong.
I'm going to say this. Like, in my relationships, I've always managed it by asking questions, because the longer I stay with a girl, the more I say, so how am I doing? Is there areas I need to improve on? Are you not happy about certain things? I ask those questions because I want to be able to know, right? And as the relationship gets more serious, because I will tell her, you know what, I'm thinking of taking it to the next level. How do you feel about that? Because this is how I'm feeling over here. But I want to know the pros, cons, what I can improve on, maybe things I take too long on, because I need you to communicate this with me, right? So I think you should ask these questions as the relationship is being developed, because I have a certain way that I live in my house that's clean to the T, and I'm anal that way. And I'm sure she has her ways that she lives. So I would say, hey, if we decide to move in together, this is how I like things. Do you think you can tolerate this? And what's your pet peeves? Like, what do you, these are things you just simple conversations you have when you're, lying down in the bed, just talking, getting to know one another, right? So that's how I would manage any relationship I'm in. I ask how I'm doing, right? I'm asking, what do I need to improve on? So she can tell me. So she can't say I never asked, and I can't say, well, you never told me, right? So I think if you keep it just on that level, basic level, because I would let any girl know, one thing you got to know, I'm never going to read your mind, ever. Like, I'm never going to take the time to say, what is she thinking, right? Ever. So she's going to know this guy is not going to spend time trying to figure out what I'm thinking. And I think if you have that understanding, she's going to know. But I want you to be able to tell me anytime you feel insecure, anytime I need to be checked, anytime I need to be put in place, something I said that you didn't like in public. I want you to have that access to know you can tell me. Now, if she doesn't tell me and she decides to keep it in and she starts to tell me when I least expect it, now we're gonna have trouble, because that's not how it works, right?
I mean, certainly, if you create a space where you can have that conversation, not only during the relationship, but preferably before you get into anything serious, where you can outline certain expectations, and talk about your goals and aspirations. But certainly, as when you're in a relationship, certain things will come up or start developing, because you can't know a person, 100%, and you can't know them from Jump Street. So you take your time, you get into it, and once you're in it, then you start making decisions about how are we gonna have these conversations and be quite open and receptive to make that possible, where they can speak to you about their own concerns about the relationship and be free to tell you about their expectations, and that's just theirs, and hopefully they'll open the door for you to say the same. Relationships are not, no one knows anyone's mind, and I think oftentimes we assume that we have certain expectations and it should be matched by someone else. Their expectation might not be the same as ours, but if they can appreciate it, then certainly we can have a conversation.
Bro, let me say something real quick before you go. You
Sure.
may even hit on it. I also want to talk about, I think Orville was about to start on it. It's fine and dandy. I think Coach probably hit it, but I may have just missed it a little bit because I was doing something else. But as the relationship evolves and as things go on, those things adjust, those things change. When I was 19, like my thoughts about relationships were totally different than they are now at 47. You know what I mean? So I would like at some point for somebody to talk about, what happens as the dynamics change during the relationship. You know what I mean? So we're talking about managing the different relationships, and we're like, most everybody has said something about having the conversation up front. 5 years down the road, is that going to be the same vision or the same plan for the relationship? But like I said, I want to get to that at some point. But go ahead, Roland.
I think we should measure our expectations and our goals. That way we can set landmarks to meet. And when you set landmarks, you push one another to attain that. Because if you don't, you just throwing stuff out there saying, well, you got this and you got that. But when you come together and set those goals together, because if you have differing expectations, differing and never come together, you're not really in a relationship. You're in a situationship that you are together, but you're separate. And when you have a house that's divided, we all know it's going to fall.
Yep, I agree with that.
I definitely agree with the the landmarks, because you got a long range goal and you can walk in the same direction, and you don't know if how far you are from that goal. If you don't put something in front of it, you'll be aiming for the moon every day, when you probably just need to aim at the next few blocks. Like I know Uncle was talking about running in a marathon. I know you're not gonna just bust out and go from running 4 miles a day to say, hey, I'm gonna go run 26 miles. It's got to be some interval training, some realistic expectations got to be set in between there. And you also have to make sure that you're capturing the quality of life that you want to have. Like Uncle was talking about, in 2023, this is the way he's budgeted himself. So it won't be a lot of trips, won't be a lot of this. And that's because he knows what he's looking for. He knows he has to cut some things back in order to see his savings grow to where he wants it to be. That's a benchmark, So I think history, economics, health, the changing the quality of life also impacts that too. And a lot of the times that never gets accounted for. Like Roland said, he had a heart attack, I guarantee you whatever, 5, so like, I guarantee you whatever his plans were before those heart attacks, they're not the same now, so I think accepting that life happens and being, good to the person that you're with. So if something changes where it's not in your favor for whatever reason, that hopefully you put enough work in so the other person can, feel honored to take care of you. Because sometimes, man, the worst thing you can be as a human being is a burden to another human being.
I agree with that, gentlemen. Antoine, did you say something about this one?
No, I agree with what Vic just said. I mean, listen, things are, as you grow in a relationship, things are going to change. What won't change in a relationship for me is the goals that I set for myself, right? I'm shooting for the stars and I ain't landing on no moon. I'm just shooting for the stars, right? So anybody that comes into my life has to understand that's going to require a sacrifice that I'm making, and I already made the decision to make it, right? So I'm hoping that that person is along on the same wavelength. I would want that, because I think everybody has expectations. I think it should be in a relationship. Let's plan for a child. Let's plan for what do you want to, where do you want to be in 5 years? What about retirement? But things change. You know, life throws you a curveball. Okay, that's set back. So you have that discussion. Okay, obviously we wanted to be here. We're not here. And we're here now. Let's make new goals for ourselves and our relationships.
I have a question, and you know, I'm 47, so I don't know how senior many of you are. So, you know, when you think about relationships and aligning goals, everyone comes to a relationship with their, I don't, you know, coach, you're laughing. I don't know if you're you're much senior. I know you have a nice head of gray, but you're not. Oh, okay.
Roland's the senior.
Okay,
here.
Roland. But you come to a relationship with your own individual goals, and sometimes that might change. But how much do you align your goals to that individual, and should it be intricately tied to that individual goal, so that both of you are kind of like on the same path? Even if it's not your goal, how much do you invest in making sure that they achieve theirs, knowing that that's your goal, this is my goal, but we have a common understanding that we align ourselves, so we don't go off path. You know, I mean, for those people who have been there.
I think, in my experience, when you say, break it down for me, because maybe I'm misunderstanding. Are you saying that you both have separate goals and you both are working towards your separate goals, but you're saying what, that you may
How much that aligns to our common goal, to our common goal to achieve common things?
Common goal, the only thing in that common goal is the relationship, the household, the kids. That's coming together and making it happen in there. But as far as my goal to do this, you're not part of. I'm doing this. I set my goal for this. This is where I want to.
Interfering with the relationship.
Then she would know that from the beginning, because I would let her know that this is where I'm headed. This is where I'm going. This is where I'm going to be. I'm not shooting for the moon. I'm shooting for the stars, and I'm not landing on the moon. If you're on board with that, that's how it's going to be. I'm going to ask her, what's your goals? What do you want? Right? Because I would want her to achieve. I believe in a woman. I don't think any woman should give up her career for a man. That's stupid and asinine, because that man could leave and you got nothing. Right? So I don't believe in any of that man taking care of the entire household pain. I don't believe in none of that. Right? But I do believe in coming together for the sake of the child and the kids and how you want to raise them. Because when she becomes a mother or I wouldn't want her to work. I would want her to have the total, forget, what you call that, leave of absence. No, baby. You stay until this baby's able to say what's wrong with the diapers. Like you are here, right? You can do your work at home. We can find a compromise in that area. I don't want you to give up your career. You had a good career before you met me, and you probably have a good career if you leave me. That is not the question. The question is, we're coming together to raise this child. One of us has to be home and one of us has to pick up the slack. How do you want to do it? That's the only way you come. But I'm still going towards my goal. And I think that has nothing to do with making it difficult.
I got you.
In the military, they made it easy for us. They gave us what they call METAL, Mission Essential Task List. So you have, each level has different tasks to conduct, but the lower levels, theirs enhance the higher, and so on and so on. And see, that's what you have to do. You have to bring whatever you're trying to do as an individual. If it does not help the family, if it's simply for you, we got to restructure some things. You don't have to stop doing what you're doing, but what comes first is family.
There you go.
Then anything else, if we have the ability and time, I will push you 100% towards your goals, your aspirations and everything. But first and foremost, family gets taken care of. And then outside of that, we'll see.
Yep.
See, See, this goes back to what I was talking about earlier. This is why the conversation in the beginning is most important. Because again, when we have that conversation and we understanding what the overall vision is going to be for the family, whatever we're doing at that particular point in time, we're now talking about how does that fit in that vision. And we're talking about our goals and aspirations within the scope of that, not just coming together and say, okay, well, I want to do this and I want to do that and I want to do, because we are two separate people living individual lives and claiming that we're in a relationship, but the only person that we're in a relationship with is ourselves. I'm not asking anybody to stop what they're doing. I'm trying to see how it fits in what I'm doing. Because if that's the case, now we can move together as a unit. But if we can't move together as a unit, then there'll never be any unity. Just like I said, the vision is single. But at the end of the day, two people with two separate visions, that's division, brother. And trust me, it may not happen right now, but it will happen eventually when you two grow apart, because my job is requiring me to do this. My job, your job is not the most important thing in a relationship. This family, this house, these children, what we're building for them, our grandchildren to come. That's part of what we're doing. We're working to establish and make sure that our legacy does not have to deal with the things that we're dealing with. We're creating a foundation so that they can have a head start in life, one that we had to fight to get to. So that's why I say that conversation is in the beginning is the most important thing that catapults the relationship in the right direction.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I think we were already here. I think this was the next question. Orville just happened to get to it, a couple
sorry.
seconds before. No, you good, man. So like it was a great segue into the question. It's just official now. You know what I mean? So I think that, what I'm getting from all of this and what I believe as well is that there is the overall vision of the relationship, first of all. Second of all, you have two individuals who are coming together to become one or to be part of the relationship, which is the number one, as Coach said, which is the number one person in the relationship is the relationship. So I think it's okay for people to have their own goals, their own expectations, their own dreams, and all of those. However, once we have communicated in the beginning, this is the vision for the relationship and for the marriage or whatever it is you guys decide and talk about, everything needs to fit into that vision. Like if you just want to go and just do something, I just want to go and do something, I'm taking money out of the house and it's taken away from the investment. And you mean I'm gonna have to work an extra year longer and stuff like that. Whoa. This wasn't a plan. This is not what we talked about. So I think it is okay. And I think it's great for everybody to have their own different individual goals and visions and independence and stuff like that in relationship, as long as it does not affect or take away from the overall vision of the family. And what was you saying, Antoine?
I was saying that question is a question like how can individuals support their partner? Ask. I would definitely. How can I support you in what you want to do? Let me know what I can do for you, right? Because I'm doing what I need to do. But if you need support, I would just simply ask, what do you need support in? Right? Because we already agreed that when we decide to have kids, we already understand that, you know what, we have to build our legacy. It's all about the kids. It's not about you and me anymore. How do you want to go about doing it? Because I know you love being a lawyer or you love being a surgeon, but, I don't, it doesn't work with you walking around with a big belly doing what you do, right? So there's going to come a time you have to be at home. But I still want you to achieve your goals, so figure that out. Now, support your partner. Of course you're going to support your partner. My only question is how. I'm not going to just put myself in there. I'm going to say, how can I support you? Right? Because I'm going to have that communication with her. And she's going to have that communication with me. She's going to say, how can I support you? Absolutely no way in hell you can, because I'm an artist and I'm doing this. There's nothing you can do to help me with my art. Nothing. But you can, be there for me when I need you. I get close. I get tired. I need a little cup of coffee. I need things. But this is what I'm doing. So I don't have that job like that.
But isn't that support?
What?
Her staying out of your way, her doing all of those things in the evening, blah, blah, blah.
The best thing she can do is stay out of my way when I'm in there. That's the best thing she can do, honestly. And I'd appreciate that, right?
I agree with Antoine in the sense that, hey, in a relationship, I score. I get buckets. Don't stop me from scoring. You know, that's just the bottom line. You know, so like,
However,
huh?
Antoine wants to have children one day. And I'm not, this is not start pick on Antoine Day or nothing like that.
Understood.
But however, Antoine wants to have kids one day. So if Antoine, this is just me personally, wants to have children one day, then, you know, things may have to adjust some. And different, and all that mean is the different ways that she supports you. Like your wife would be supporting you by changing the pampers and doing all of those things and feeding the baby, so you can focus on continuing to build and continuing to do your art. You know what I mean?
Well, now I plan on having a little bit of the toes in my mouth and eating up the little fingers here and there.
Are you talking about the baby?
Yeah. I plan on learning how to do that stuff. Whoa.
I was thinking the same thing.
I plan on I want to be part of that kid's life. I know mothers are great nurturers, you know, but after you change that diaper, it belongs to me. I want to have a little fun too.
So how does that play into, because babies are unpredictable. So how does that play into your artwork?
That's
because
what I'm
when Antoine's red light is on,
right,
he is not to be disturbed.
Right.
So how does having a baby that you want to put their toes and fingers in your mouth, how does that play into your red light being on?
Easy. I got to sip on my coffee. Sometimes I got to go to the bathroom. I got to do things. I'm not going to be just 24/7 in there. I mean, I'm going to
come out.
Come out.
One of the dads to come out and wake the baby up.
Yeah, because I know that it's not about me anymore. So I have to come out and say, listen, are you okay? Are you doing fine? Like, are you cool? Do you need me to go get something while I'm here? Like, I like that's what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say, like, after, like, if she's giving me the highest honor of having my child, right, I'm going to go out of my way to make sure she's fully comfortable. Like, I do not believe ever in struggle love. I will never be in a struggle love. I ain't doing none of that shit. We ain't arguing about paying bills or where we're going to find the money. I ain't doing none of that shit. No. I seen that. That is no, right? Just know there's always going to be a roof over our heads. There's always going to be a car in the driveway, and there's always going to be food in that fridge. I am not doing the struggle love thing. So if I tell you, baby, I need to finish this because we got some heavy bills coming up. We got a nanny to pay. I need to do this. You got to support me on this one, right? You gotta pick up the slack on me so we can have that life. That's about it, you know. But you know, that's why the kids normally tend to go to the mother for the nurturing stuff, because the father is paying the bills. He's working overtime, right? But that whole struggle love movie shit, I ain't doing that. What, are you crazy, boy? No.
That's the struggle love.
I ain't doing that. A road less traveled is a road I don't want to be on. Fuck that shit.
I do wonder though, when it comes to like dreams deferred or goals deferred, if that's something one will do for a partner, because I've deferred my dreams or my goals before for the interest of the relationship. So I do wonder how much you, Antoine, would defer your your dreams or your goals for the interest of your family, to say I gotta pull back on this. Maybe I'll do this next year or 2 years from now, instead of doing this now to go for this goal. Like, how much are you willing to for dreams to be deferred? Okay,
wait, I want to make sure I understand. Is she my wife or my girlfriend?
I mean, you're in a relationship or you have a family.
So I want to make sure I understand the question correctly before I answer. Are you saying,
let's just say your wife?
Okay, my wife, and you're asking me what if I would sacrifice?
You would defer your dreams or your goals for the interest of the family?
No. Do I have kids or don't have kids?
Well, let's throw kids in there.
You do have kids.
You do have kids.
So I do have kids. I'm working towards my goal, and you're saying, will I sacrifice my goal for the sake of the family?
Yes.
Give me a scenario that would make that happen. Give me something tangible.
Your goal is to attend.
No, my goal is set. Give me something tangible that will pull me away from my goal. Give me something that I can really relate to.
Unexpected.
Your wife in a car crash. She's incapable of carrying herself around and everything. Now she needs you to maneuver her.
Okay, then I don't mind doing that. I'll hire somebody as well. I don't mind coming down. I'll do that too. I'll do both. I'll hire somebody and I'll be there when that person's not there. I mean, the bills got to get paid. I can't take her to the bank and say, this is why I can't pay my mortgage, right? I can't do that.
Let's put it even more deeply, to be honest. Let's just say you have a goal set or and there's a terminal illness of your partner, that she needs you right now to be here with me. If you decide to take up this job, maybe say in Israel, I don't know,
Right.
to go paint some wall,
Right.
there is no way you're going to be available to take care of your loved ones, and she has a terminal illness.
Well,
Will
first of
you
all,
give up that goal of that big job in Israel for your family and say, I got to take this on, and maybe another time?
the only thing that would make me stay with her is if I can afford it, because I'm not going to end up homeless, and you're not going to end up without the care you need because I decided to stay home next to you.
Well, she's terminally ill.
Yeah, but somebody has to pay those bills. Who's going to pay those bills? Are you saying you want me to stay home and then become what? Penniless and broke? And I can't afford to take care of her? Or are you telling me that I can afford to take care of her, so I can stay home and take care of her? But I don't
have enough money to take care of her if you stay home.
I'll sacrifice that job. Shit, if it's good, she's terminally ill. I don't mind staying by her side till she's gone. I don't mind that if I can afford it. But if I can't afford it, then I got to live within a realistic life that I got to pay those bills. I got
So
medical.
it comes down to economics for you then, Antoine.
Well, what else is it going to be? I'm going to end up in the street with her, or she's going to end up without the care? Pick.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got to, which one are you going to do? Right? I mean, there was my friend who chose not to have medical care. And I said, bro, you're making good money. I think you should get the best care ever. He said, man, what's going to happen to me? I'm like, dude, I mean, you can afford it. You should take it. He goes, yeah, but I'm taking home that paycheck. And I'm like, man, he breaks his arm. Whoo! Next thing you know, he's out of work. Whoo! There goes his savings. And I said, dude, you could have done that for $120 a month. Easy. And you would have had medical issues. You wouldn't have had this problem. You wouldn't have been living off your savings. Like I said, I'm not struggling for anyone. I'm not putting myself in, and I'm not putting her in that position. She's got to understand, I'm going to cuddle you as much, but I need you to have the medication. And in order for you to get what you need to live a good life and maybe extended, is me doing that. Now, if I'm over there and I have to rush home to see you because you're on your last words, I have no problem doing that too. That's all I'm saying. You've got to be realistic to the situation you're in. But I'll tell you this, I will never sacrifice my goal for anyone, ever, because it's already set. But I will make compromises. That's how I see it.
Welcome to the show, Chris. How are you?
I appreciate
I'm well. I'm well. What's going on, fellas? I lost the stream.
What's up, Chris?
What's up, Vic? Hey, the date is circled on the calendar. We'll talk after the show. The show kind of cut off with Antoine talking about toes. What was that?
He was talking about the baby. If he
Okay,
had a baby,
okay.
Yeah.
I got to think about those, you know?
Okay. So you were talking about like the stuff we do with newborns, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Little upside down thing with the hangs, you know.
Okay. You're safe. You're safe.
So the toes brought you to the show. He like, I'm missing it.
He's like, man,
I guess he loved his toes.
I've been listening from the jump. It just cut out when I was trying to log in.
Oh man. Roland, what
Just
you
a
got,
bad
man?
look.
You unmuted over there.
What?
Oh, I said you unmuted. I asked did you have something to add to it?
I thought Chris was about to say something.
Oh, go ahead, Chris.
If we're talking about answering the question, how can you support your partner by still maintaining some sort of independence in the relationship?
Yeah.
To be honest, I think you should dead the whole independence portion of that in the beginning, because you can't be independent in a union. It just doesn't work. You both have to depend on each other. Now, here's the thing. I guess you have to determine what the roles are in the relationship, determine what's needed from both parties, and not try to do your part and the other person's part at the same time. Just stay in your lane. That would be where I would start. Anything above that, I have no idea.
I think you never want to lose your individualism, because you're always going to be you, even in the relationship. Like me, I got to be me. I can't just be, oh, I'm her husband. I'm rolling always. But I have to always take into account I am in a relationship. So like Coach always say, the most important person in a relationship is the relationship. I'm cool with that. But if I want to become, say I want to become a singer, or just say something crazy, that doesn't take a back burner to anything else unless it's for the relationship, because I can still maintain my relationship and continue in that vein. And you can actually help me if, we're in a relationship. Now you help me reach my dreams. That's what we're there for. If it's a legitimate dream. Now, if it's a pipe dream, come on. That's not going to happen. But if it's something legitimate, I think we work together in that. That's like my wife is a realtor. So now I'm thinking, man, how can I help bring you clients? How can I, like if I wear the hat, I got the shirt, I got, all that other stuff. How can I bring, because when I help her, I'm helping the house. I'm helping me. So it works out where she wants to be whatever in that. So my job is to push her in that also.
We've been
participation, man. Participation is the language to make a relationship work. It's not just staying out of the other person's way, but when you participate, you know your position. It's no different than a sport. Like if anybody here ever played any type of team sport, you're gonna be as effective in the position that you're playing based on either your athleticism, your size, whatever variable it is, right? So you go where you can perform the best version of yourself, to be in support of the relationship and support of your mate. And I think when you think about it in terms of participation, like whatever it is that you do independent of the other person that still feeds the relationship, that's the economy. You know what I'm saying? Like that person knows what their boundaries are. They got a set routine and hours. They can kind of plan what they want to do that day, because you still got things you want to individually accomplish, even if you don't want to do anything. Sometimes doing nothing is accomplishing something for some people, especially when you lead a busy life. And balancing participation with personal time, I think that you have to frame it in the right discussion and say, hey, look, we preach teamwork all the time, but like you need to know how that other person's individual routine feeds the way that you do your best version of yourself for the relationship too. So I think participation is the word that I would use to, get everybody to the same conversation.
You guys do know that less is more, right? Sometimes not doing something for someone, leaving them alone, is actually doing something for them, right? Let them do what they need to do. It's not a bad thing if you're not always participating and doing all this lovey-dovey shit. Let that person do what they want to do. Is not a bad thing. Leave them alone. That's how you're helping them. Not saying anything. That's how you're helping them. Letting them create. That's how you're helping them. As a creator that I've been doing it my whole life, I don't need you to create. Help me create. People need to understand that when you're in a creative zone, you're in your zone. You don't need nobody else but you. You're channeling shit coming from people that are creative within your mind that you guys will never understand. You won't. So when a person is creative, like Michael Jackson used to go up in a damn tree. You think he wanted his butler to bother him about if he needs tea and coffee? Because you need that space where left alone to do what you do. And I think you're missing the point of certain things. Yes, certain jobs require a person to be there, but sometimes not doing something for someone is the best way to help them. If my wife is in her zone and this is her first pregnancy and she's going through and she says, I just need space, leave me alone at this time. Me not bothering her is the best way to help her until she calls for me. And to always try to interject, you're a pain in the ass now. Now I don't want you to around because you push me to the point where I don't want to be with you. So people need to understand their boundaries and respect that, I think, in a relationship. Even if I'm in a relationship, I don't want to be with you 24. When I go to the gym, I don't want you in the same gym as me. Go to another gym. This is my zen. This is me. This is me being with the guys. This is me smoking a cigar. This is me letting loose. I don't want to be around. I don't want to look over and see you. And vice versa. She may have a I don't know, a PTA meeting or something, right? Going out with the ladies, sewing some cups or something. I don't know what they do, but you don't need me. I'll pick you up, but you don't need to.
Sewing cups.
I don't know what people do. Goddamn, they do their PTA thing or Tupperware or whatever they talk about in the wine.
Yeah, I think it's
I
more
do
about
agree with you,
compromise at the
Antoine.
end, though.
Go
You have to
ahead, Oval.
compromise.
Go ahead.
I think you have to compromise in a relationship with, maintaining yourself of self, but understanding that there are individuals in the relationship who would need to, pave their own path and do their own thing. But you have to compromise and understand what you're going to give and what you can compromise. Sometimes you have to give up some stuff. And it does not necessarily mean you're giving up because you're giving it away or forgetting it. You may have to compromise right now in order for someone else to achieve his or her goal, and then come back and go about doing your goal and to do the relationship thing. But I think it comes down to compromising and understanding each other's goals and expectation without sacrificing, so to speak.
I do agree with Antoine. There is a such thing as support by doing nothing. There is a such thing. You've had a long day. I've actually had this conversation before. I had a long day at work. It was productive, but it was long. I was surrounded by people all day. And then I came home, and then the lady that I was chilling with decided to start yapping. And I looked her dead in the face and I said, "Sweetheart, you just do not understand how much I would like you if you did not talk to me right now. Just let me deacclimate. I had a long day. Let me chill." And she was cool with it because she understood that I wasn't mad at her. I just needed to decompress so that way I could be the guy that she likes. So I understand support by doing nothing. That is a thing.
You meant like when you got home from work or something?
Yeah.
Your spot?
Yeah.
You can call me whatever you want, but me, I actually look forward to coming home to see my wife. I'm just saying, after I've been at work all day long, and I'm an elementary school counselor, so I'm around kids all day long. Because my wife adds a certain amount, now get this right, Antoine, I have peace already, right? So when I come home, it's peaceful, right? So when I come home, my wife adds to that peace because she's not like, "Hey, here's the baby. You need to do this. You need to fix this. You forgot to take out the trash this morning." No, it ain't nothing like that. When I come home, the first thing I do before I even kick the dog is I kiss my wife because I'm happy to see her. I'm glad to be at home in this space that I pay mortgage for every month, that I work hard for, that I went to school for and did all these things for. And then now I have a place to lay my head every day. And it's like, man, like when I come home, like, bro, I want to be around peace. There are times when I come home where I may not be as talkative, but I'm still happy to see her. You know what I mean? So
that's fine. I agree with that. I agree with that.
And I think that's the difference.
Yeah,
I think that's the difference.
like, why should you be why should you like not look forward to going home? Like,
It's not about not looking forward to going home.
It's
not about
I used
that.
to be in that situation. I used to hate going home. I'm just being real.
But I don't think that's what they're saying.
I hate going home, bro.
Nah, that's not what we're saying at all.
Right.
That's not
Uncle
what we're
Junior, I look
saying
at it
at
like
all.
this.
Go
Like,
ahead.
I like dangerous things. I like motorcycles. I like guns. My wife
Yeah.
say I can't have no motorcycles no more. Got rid of them. So now I got guns. Now, me and her, I can hang out with her all day. We can go to she's a foodie. We can go to restaurants and try different things, whatever. She's vegan too. So that's cool. But when I go to the range,
Yeah,
that's my time.
facts.
There you go. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Everybody
Right.
needs their
That's
own, because when
That's
she
what I'm
go,
talking
she ain't having no fun. She like, Papa, is it time to go? And I'm like, yeah, we just got here. See, I want to enjoy it. So I know if you come along, you gonna drain me. So stay home, do whatever. I'm going to the range. I'm gonna be pink, pink, pink. Spend some money on bullets and targets.
There
and
you
I'll
go.
be back.
Oh, I'm cool with it. I guess I was looking at it from a different point of view, Antoine. I thought maybe
If I had a wife,
yeah.
No, we're not saying that we don't want to come home to our
Yeah.
opposites. We don't want to come home to our reflections. That's
Mhm.
probably one of the first things that's on our minds. But in order for us to be the guy that she likes, we got to decompress and get rid of all the nonsense that we had to deal with outside of the house.
Gotta
So
reset.
Yeah, it's a "Mwah, I'm happy to see you. Thanks for meeting me at the door. Here's give me a tight hug. Now let me go get this off so that way I can be the guy you like." That's
There
really
you
what we're
go.
saying.
She can't
That's
help
really
me.
it. That's really it.
My wife cannot help me decompress.
Yeah,
She can't.
and
I need to be.
So tell me how you know that.
What?
Tell me how do you know that your wife can help you decompress?
I don't want to hear a sound. I don't want to hear nothing. I don't want to hear TV. I just want to come home. I just want to have my little drink if I drink. I just want to have my protein shake. I just want peace. I don't want to
You
hear.
have never came home and a woman set you down and massaged your head and massaged
I
your
want none of
back
that. I want none
and
of
you
that.
decompressed.
I don't want none of that.
Hey, good
Nothing.
for you.
You can
Good
do
for
all that.
you.
You can do all that rubbing at night underneath the sheets. Rub away. Knock yourself out. But when
I'm
I
sorry.
come
I
home,
love a good scalp massage, bro.
when I
I'm
come
sorry.
home, I just want to.
I
Bruh.
love a good scalp massage, bro.
It's like sometimes when I come out of my art room, my studio, and I'm like, whew, goddamn, 8 hours. I'm burnt. Now, okay, now what am I going to do? I'm going to relax, maybe watch a TV. Then she can come in and do her whole woman thing. I'm cool with that. But for me to get that groundedness, that peace, that come off mentally, nah, just leave me alone. Because you know what? I get it.
And we're not saying it's going to be like this all the time. There are just going to be certain specific times where we need this, and the scalp massage might not cut it. You understand what I'm saying? So I understand what Antoine is saying. I get it.
I get them. I'm not combating it. I just was looking at it from a different point of view. I was like, man, I look forward to those things.
Yeah, like I said, man, a good scalp massage is always a good thing.
Bro, who don't like one?
I don't like massage. I don't know.
What is wrong with you? Know what? I'm done. You know what? Nope.
I don't like massage. Nope. I don't even know that whole poking shit and rubbing.
Unhealthy competition.
Damn. I ain't even into that. That whole mud bath shit that people do. What the? No.
Hey, nobody wants to speak Antoine anymore. So
can't do any of that shit, boy.
Bottom line,
hey, I feel attacked right now.
And get back in the fight because you quit.
It's called bowing out gracefully.
Hey, that's all ego. So I think supporting your partner, man, is like just knowing when to sit down and knowing when to stand up. It's about picking and choosing your battles. It's about reading the room. It's about situational awareness of other people and tapping into your own emotional intelligence. Putting yourself on the other side of the table. Shout out to Chris, being across the table.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, you see that, right?
I see what you did there.
I really think that in that situation, the person with the least amount of objectivity is going to always not fail to have their expectations met. The least objective person is going to make the conversation that much more difficult when it doesn't even need to be a conversation at all.
Hey, I heard that. Hey, we're about to close up shop for the night, but before we do, we're going to go around the table with our final thoughts. We didn't get to a couple of questions, and that's okay, but I think we had some good conversation. We may have spiraled out of control or went left field, but you know what? It is what it is, and I was okay with it. So, but I think for the most part, we may have stayed on track. But if we didn't, that's okay. Tune in next week, and we'll do it bigger and better. But either way, we're going to go around the horn with our final thoughts. We're going to start with, ladies and gentlemen, none other than the Mr. Lovely, the guy who don't eat toes, from across the table.
I should have never said
I see what we're doing. Okay. How do I navigate the various dynamics that may arise in a relationship? Okay. I guess I'm gonna leave it at this. Everybody, I said this previously on a previous live stream. Everybody knows that I love anime. It's a great genre. I love it, and the storytelling is amazing. My favorite anime is Full Metal Alchemist. And in the very beginning of every episode, Alphonse Elric spits the law of equivalent exchange, which states that humankind cannot gain anything without first sacrificing something in return. To obtain anything, something of equal value must be lost. So I guess the best way to navigate the dynamics in the relationship would be to recognize what you want and recognize what you're willing to give up in exchange for it, because the relationship is not about just you. It's about the union. So you have to figure out what you can bring to the union, so that way the union is better and not just you individually. And I'll just leave it at that.
All right, folks. So tonight's conversation, to me, I was listening a lot more, and most of what was discussed centered on decentralized leadership and just knowing when to lead and when to follow. Again, being able to avoid being defensive. Listening to comprehend and apply what you're learning, and do it incrementally, because you can set a goal that's too lofty based on capability, and you might miss that mark. So make sure you're being reasonable about improving and creating reasonable expectations to change your behavior overall. And I think for the most part, tonight I added a few more words to understand the dynamics of our relationship and evolving with tech and everything else. You got to have some creativity, some versatility, and some things you're going to have to be inflexible on, just like when Coach brought up about the basketball goal being in the street, or Antoine being willing to make a decision and put his foot down regardless of, who agrees with what. You got to have a routine, because that's how your routine allows your individuality to maintain healthy boundaries. So when you come in, some things don't have to be discussed. And, that goes with reading the room and maintaining some situational awareness about what you bring to the environment as well as your mate. If you do not have any situational awareness about your relationship, about your mate, you're going to find yourself always being either in the way or either getting run over to some degree. There's going to always be a conflict. But the most important thing is that you're there for the other person. You take care of the other person should pay you back in care and comfort.
Okay, so my final thoughts. Let's see. I'd like to say I don't believe in sacrificing your goals for anybody, ever, right? I believe that person had a life before you, they'll have a life after you. You should not ask that person to make a sacrifice in their life because they're coming together with you. You ain't nothing special, right? But what you do is you compromise in a healthy relationship to build a healthy relationship, whereas you give and take in certain areas to build a relationship. Find out what it is your partner likes. Find out who your partner is. Find out if they're on the same, all these communication points, find out, right? Don't have somebody move in without knowing how they are and how they live. You find out, you vet them. So if you're in a relationship, there's no surprises. The boundaries are set. The wording is set. How you speak to one another is understood. You know the person's do's and don'ts, likes, dislikes. So you have that all out of the way and you make it simple. So the decisions that you make together, and you make a nice, clear understanding on how things are going to be, right? And at the end of the day, the man leads. He's going to make his final decision. But if he leads and he makes the wrong decision, he's got to own it, all right? He made a bad call and he's got to own it. And I think that's where it's very clear. You made that mistake. You made that decision and you were wrong. Put your ego aside and swallow it. But going forward, you come together in the relationship. But that person should not sacrifice who they are to be with you, and vice versa. The relationship is where it matters. The kids is where it matters. It's about them. It's about legacy. It's about what you're building together, where you see yourself down the road, where you want to be. And if you want that kind of life, there's a sacrifice you have to make to get it. I mean, I can't stress this enough. I don't care how much she loves you. That ain't going to pay your bills. And yes, it matters, because nobody's going to be homeless on the street for one another. You can't do no good if you can't help yourself. You can't be no good to anybody else if you can't help yourself first. That's why when you're flying in an airplane, they say put your mask on first before you help the person next to you. There's a reason for that. And I think people lose the sight of that simplicity. But if you keep it simple, everything will happen right. And talk. Here you go.
Hey, I'm pretty much going to sound like a broken record. I've said it already. The most important thing that you can do in a relationship is make sure that you have the necessary conversations in the beginning before the relationship gets started. It is important for you to be equally yoked with your partner. You also need to understand, or what is it? What is how do they view relationship? Those are some of the things that's important to understand. Don't get into a relationship based upon superficial concepts, because those superficial concepts will always lead to a demise of a relationship over the long run. I can't get involved with somebody just simply because they look good, they smell good, or they're 6'4", dark skinned bald head with a six pack. That stuff goes away, right? Get after get after the heart of the person. Understand who the person is, what their core values are. Do your core values line up? What's important to them? How they treat the individuals in their family, that might matter as well. Like, how do they handle some of their relationships? That's also an indicator. Um, Again, when the dynamics of a relationship show up, it should not change who you are. Who you are has already been codified. Everybody is on a journey to become consciously aware of who they are. So I love it when I hear people say that, well, this shouldn't change you. You don't even know who you are completely yet. So you're going to change as you become more aware of who you are. So what we have to do in the space of relationship is understand that relationship is a training ground, and it makes room for us to change. And I think it was Vic who mentioned it as well. In the relationship is probably one of the most influential spaces to where we can champion the professional and personal development of each other. I should be her biggest fan. She should be my biggest fan. We should push each other outside of our comfort zone into a space where we realize another version of ourselves. That's what relationship is all about. So when we view our growth as happening outside of the relationship, then that really kind of helps us to understand how we view relationships. So when it comes down to it, again, have that conversation in the beginning, understand what's compromisable and what's not compromisable, and then remember, in the space of disagreement, the relationship is always most important, and let what's right and what's wrong be understood, and don't fight for who's right and who's wrong. Get the ego out the way. And that's about it.
See, Coach just hit a home run, so all I got to do is get a bunt. And man, how do I navigate? I think stay focused on the relationship as well as your partner. Listen to what is said and what's not being said, because what's not being said is just as important. And keep your emotions at bay. Highlight their strengths and not just their weaknesses. Don't make them feel bad about not being super in certain areas and subpar in others. Always be willing to teach, always be willing to listen, always be willing to elevate, so that you can continue to strengthen the relationship. And always remember, the most important thing about the team is the team, and we win together. That's all I got. Muted.
And I was muted, so I will do my final thought now. How do I navigate the various dynamics that may arise in a relationship? I look at it like this. So the word in this is navigate. That's one of the words. So just like we may be taking a trip from point A to point B, it's let's say we're taking a trip from Virginia to California. There are going to be a lot of different things that's going to go on during that trip, just like a relationship. There are going to be road closing. There's going to be construction. There's going to be a lot of different things, detours that's going to happen on a road trip, just like in a relationship. And when those things do happen, you have to be willing to make adjustments, make corrections to the relationship, and then get back on the path, get back to the goal of the relationship, and then continue on from there. So that's my final thought. We're getting ready to go, but before we do, I want to thank each individual person, each individual man, each individual Wolfpack member that has been here tonight. I appreciate you for your thoughts. I appreciate you for your experience and everything that you added to the conversations tonight. I want to personally thank the chat and everybody who participated tonight. I really appreciate you. I understand that that is your guys' way of participating in the show, and we really appreciate you. Like, we look at the comments, we read them, and a lot of times we'll respond back. So I really appreciate that. Lastly, if you are a praying person, I'd like for you to send a special shout out to Gamal, who's been on the show a couple of times, and Dr. Easley. They have some personal things going on in their life, and their family and stuff like this. It's not relevant to disclose their personal information. However, if you feel it in your heart or you feel led and you're a praying person, please do so for those two gentlemen. At the end of the day, we are done. We will be back next week for the fourth portion of this 4-part series. So see y'all next week. We love y'all and have a great night.
The word emotion kind of distorts everything, because like when you take the letter E and you equate that to the word feelings, you kind of mess up the